All right, welcome into another edition of the High School Blitz podcast. I am your host, Brandon Lowe. Joining me, as usual, my best friend on the show. He is not a co-host. He is a contributor due to legal reasons and all that jazz. He is Ryan Pritt. Ryan, it's another week, and, it's still kind of confusing with the whole color code situation, but we do have some football to talk about.
Yeah, man, it's going to be good. I was just thinking, Randy, we need some music at the top of this thing.
Yeah, well, I would have to play it from, I think, like a boombox. Do you have a boombox at your house?
A boombox. I have
remember
everything
those?
else. I have everything else at the house. So yeah, probably buried under 18 boxes in my storage shed. There's a good chance there's one in there somewhere.
I just come in with an old school boombox on my shoulder.
Yeah, I might put smoke machines behind me, a couple strobe lights. Do this the right way. Yeah.
Well, if you we do have an intro on the audio version, but the cool part about Facebook is you get to see it here first, especially if we do a coach's corner interview like we did with Brad Dingus earlier. That was yesterday, Spring Valley head football coach, which Ryan, they had a huge, and I'm putting it, small again. It's as you put it, the greatest, if not the great, one of the greatest, whatever you want to call it, historic wins as far as state history in football, knocking out Martinsburg, who won 57 straight this past week. And we talked to coach, which was a great conversation, and a game that was scheduled 6 days out. So again, all these programs are kind of scrambling for teams to play. They have one team on their schedule. They're not playing because of the collar code situation. And then, you're going to play Martinsburg. And, it was just a great conversation with coach, and just good to hear from his perspective of everything that went down.
Yeah, for sure. If you're talking regular season wins, I think it probably ranks right up there with any that I've ever seen, especially in the fashion that they had to do it, like you mentioned on the interview, holding them off after an onside kick and coming that close to losing it after you'd led it the whole game and stuff. So, yeah, congratulations to those guys. Like I mentioned to him on there, that was a win that they'd wanted for a while. I mean, you lose 3 straight state title games to the same team. You finally get over that hump at their home field. And it was like I told him, I can't imagine a much better feeling in prep athletics, and that probably was after that game and on that bus ride home.
Of course, we're being presented by the Tent Guy Nitro, quarter mile from the St. Albans Nitro Bridge. That is not the overpass or the interstate bridge. That is the actual bridge itself. I always have to explain that because people go, well, which bridge are you talking about? It's not the Nitro area bridge on the interstate, but the actual bridge itself that connects both towns together, that the football teams, the Battle of the Bridge, that whole thing, hint, hint. It's right down from there. Tell them the podcast sent you, and they'll throw in one of those strips across your car during tent job. And also one of our favorite places to go and get burgers and brews and all that stuff and breakfast, because it's in the name, Oscar's Breakfast, Burgers, and Brews in Barbersville. And again, Sunday brunch, check that out as well. Very cool Bloody Marys and all that good stuff. So check those places out. And of course, if you're checking us out audio-wise, we're on 10 different streaming platforms, including Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all that good stuff too. So, but the Facebook thing's cool because we usually release stuff on Facebook first. So that's where you can go over and kind of watch the video portion and look at our ugly faces. All right, so we have rankings, but it's interesting because, we still have schools, Ryan, that haven't played in each class. That's the kind of the interesting part. And of course, color code right now, the math, there's no red. That's the good news. There is no red at all in the state. So I don't know if it's more testing, I guess, because they're encouraging more testing in these counties that are kind of lowering that number down. Of course, you do take the risk. If you do more testing, you could have more positive tests. But the more testing has helped a lot of these counties, it seems.
Yeah, and like you said, getting everybody out of the red is a good step for sure. And you mentioned some schools that haven't played games yet. You wonder how much time they have left. I mean, really, feasibly to get back underway, get everybody in shape and ready to go and still play enough games to factor into what kind of postseason we may have. I don't think anyone's real solid on what that's going to look like either, which is a whole other thing. We're putting out playoff rankings and we're not real sure what the playoffs look like. So, I always stress that you take these with a grain of salt. Obviously, it's based on mathematics and not necessarily perception or who we think is the best teams. And this year, I think you do so even more so because we don't even know what this is going to look like at the end of the year. So certainly some cool things to start conversations, and I'm sure we'll do that here in just a second. But outside of that, you really don't put much stock into these things, especially this early.
And especially since a lot of these teams, as you see every single time, the first couple of weeks you have these rankings, you'll have a deadlock at several numbers. You'll have a bunch of 7s, you'll have a bunch of 9s, you'll have a bunch of 15s. And so that, this is just early stuff. And then you throw in everything we've been going through anyway. But in Class AAA, it goes like this. You got Spring Mills 1, Spring Valley 2, Midland 2 as well, Hurricane 4, Bridgeport 5, Musselman 6, Swilling Park 7, Ripley 7, John Marshall, Martinsburg, Greenbrier East 9, Princeton is Senior 12, Parkersburg 13, Jefferson 14, Brook 15, Parkersburg 15, and Hampshire 15. So you have a lot of teams locked up as you usually do, despite what's going on, and that's usually what you see. And then, of course, there's a handful of schools that have either not won a game, and Huntington jumps out to me at 21. They're 0-3. Of course, a very young team, and we've talked about that before, so they're going through some growing pains. It's been a while since Huntington's had to go through that as well. So that's the interesting part there. But, like you said, it's early, and a lot of these teams are going to break away. But, again, we don't know where these teams are going to be later on. We don't know how many games they're going to play, especially Hurricane. But Putnam right now, I will just looked at the map before we started the broadcast. They're sitting at 17. So as far as getting to the gold level, they would have to get just under 15 to play. But, it's you're kind of racing right now for this week. But next week, you could be talking about Putnam County playing.
Yeah, hey, I did my part. I tested negative in Putnam County a week ago, so I was trying to help out the cause a little bit. But, mentioning these AAA playoff rankings, getting back to what we're supposed to be talking about, I just kind of keep veering the train off the rails today. But, you mentioned Huntington as an 0-3 team, and then you look at the three teams they've lost to. You're talking Midland undefeated, Hurricane undefeated, Wheeling Park 2-1. So, not all undefeated teams are made the same, and not all winless teams are made the same right now. And that's just kind of how these things are when we're early in the proceedings here and they're getting released early. One team that kind of intrigues me in there is Princeton at 12, at 1-1. Hung in with Bluefield down to the bitter end, which, that's always a really early season game for them. I think oftentimes it does open their season. It did this year. And that's always kind of a measuring stick for Princeton because you know the tradition that Bluefield has and the type of talent they usually have. And for them to be that close and then turn around and get a win the next week, I kind of think Princeton might have something here. They could probably stay in the back half of these playoff rankings for a while. I think that's a team to watch as you move forward.
AA, Bluefield 1, Oakland 2, Frankfort 3, Robert C. Byrd 3, Lincoln 5, Clay County 5, Independence 7, Lewis County 8, Liberty Raleigh 9, North Marion 10, Polk at 11. Of course, they played one game, Kaiser 11, Point Pleasant 13, Fairmont Senior 14, and then you have deadlock with Liberty Harrison Grafton 15, and Wayne sitting right outside at 17, which they're sitting at 1-1 as well. So, again, you got a lot of teams, as usual, in AA as you move to Class A. That sit at 1-1 and 1-2 right below there as well. You see that every single year, Class AA and especially Class A. You'll see a bunch of teams either undefeated at the top, or you'll see like a bunch of 500 teams below that 16 range to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and how weird to see Fairmont Senior at 14.
Yeah,
it's amazing what one loss to a really good Bridgeport team will do in these rankings. Obviously, I think that's a team we all expect will move up a little bit in the coming weeks, but it's weird to see them down there in the 14 range. You don't see it often. So, but that was a really good game, and they're a really good team, and I'm sure that they're going to start climbing upward from here on out. Although I will point out they have a very, very brutal schedule. I don't know if you've looked at this yet, but I think I did it earlier. Their first 8 games are against teams with a combined 13-3 record, and one of those losses was already to Fairmont. Fairmont beat was that in the first game there? Can't even remember now. I see I need to be better than this. But anyway, yeah, that's a pretty rugged start to a season for Fairmont, and they'll be one to watch obviously as we move forward.
Yeah, definitely. Never count out Fairmont, and as you said, tough schedule. I mean, anything, and I was giving you hell about Spring Valley. I actually called Spring Valley finally beating Martinsburg, and then of course you told me, what about Bridgeport? Because you called that game on Class for Play winning 44-33. Those were really the two big games as far as across the board last week. And so we both called those. So kudos to us. We got some games right.
You start looking at Bridgeport, and especially if the Kanawha County teams can never get back underway. Let's say GW Capital don't end up playing, which is, at this point you'd hate to think that, but it's certainly in the realm of possibility. When you look outside of Midland, Martinsburg, and Spring Valley, Bridgeport might be the 4th best team in Class AAA right now, and that's pretty remarkable for a team that just jumped up from AA. I mean, this is something they've done in their history, jump back and forth over the last 20, 25, 30 years, however long, and they're always there. It doesn't matter what class they're in. They're going to be there and deep in the playoffs, and it's a team you got to deal with. And I think this team's really good and won a state championship last year. And yet when everyone goes back to talk about AA, it's always Fairmont and Bluefield. They weren't expected to win it last year. They won it. And I think they've kind of used that as a motivating force this year. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be really hard to reckon with in the AAA playoffs.
I agree, and that's a good point. Jumping from Double A to Triple A, coming in, kind of kicking the door down and getting some wins. And as you said, I think a lot. They've done this before, but I think it's interesting that a lot of people are concentrating on those teams that are already in place and were powers there in Class Triple A, and Bridgeport's just on. I mean, I'm with you. I think Bridgeport can certainly. Again, we don't know what playoffs could look like. We don't know what they're going to do as far as that, but I think Bridgeport certainly could take it. I mean, I'm not counting them out at this point. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
All right, Class A, let's just run down real quick. St. Mary's 1, Dodgers County 2. By the way, Dodgers County, I believe, hasn't had anybody score on them yet. Tulsa 3, Greenbrier West 4, East Hardy 4, Tug Valley 6, Worth County 6, Thagard's Valley 8, Buffalo 9, Williamstown 10, Summers County 10, Riverview 12, Petersburg 13, Cameron 14, Moorfield 14, Gilmer, Ritchie, Tyler, Consolidate, all 16 there at the bottom. And like I said, as usual in Class A, you have a bunch of teams sitting at 500 or just below 500. Got a couple of teams that are winless at the bottom there. Ravenswood jumping out here. Richwood sitting at 2-1 at 23. South Harrison down there also winless. One of those teams in Class A we usually talk about. Those are just a couple teams that kind of jump out at the bottom there. But there you go. There's your rankings for week 3.
Yeah, East Hardy hasn't given up a point yet either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are my Cougs. Remember we determined that last week. I just had to throw that out there. But I will say, one team that really was impressive last week. I don't know if you saw what Tulsa did to Wayne last week, but that was it was a little eye-opening there. And Tulsa being a team that we've seen have their moments before. I mean, I don't know how many years ago that was. They made the Island as a Double A team, but to beat Wayne 59-6. I know Tulsa's single A now, Wayne's Double A, and Wayne's not exactly the Wayne they used to be, but still to beat that team 59-6, that was a big win for the Rebels.
All right, we're running against time, so I'm going to go ahead and bring us over to Week 4 schedule. I'm just going to throw out a couple games in each class, and we can kind of break them down a little bit here. Let's start with Bluefield and Double A and Princeton. Let's see, both teams. Let's see, Bluefield's 2-0, Princeton 1-1. Princeton, of course, seen at number 12, I believe. Bluefield's at number 1, as I just mentioned, and Double A. That should be a very fun contest.
Is this not the second time they've played in 4 weeks too?
Yeah.
Because the first game of the year was 15-13 Bluefield, I do believe. So they're doing a home and home.
Yeah.
Welcome to 2020, guys. Isn't it fun? No, this one's at Princeton. So, Princeton probably feels like they missed a really good opportunity that first game. Now they've got them at home, and it'll be worth watching the rematch for sure.
Yeah. Robert C. Bird on Double A at undefeated, and your Bridgeport team, of course, sit at 2-0. I think I'm going to stay on the train here with Bridgeport, and I think they're probably going to have any issues with RCB. I don't know a ton about RCB this year, but I guess I'm hearing some good things from them, but I don't really know what they have, especially going against a really good team like Bridgeport. Bridgeport definitely has been proven, and it's at home, so I think I'm going to run with Bridgeport on that one.
Yeah, this is a really nice rivalry game, too. I got to go to this game one year. RCB's got a nice campus up there, good little facility, and it's good to see them back. I mean, this was a team that was a perennial playoff team for a while and, ripped off 3 wins to start the year. But when you look at the schedules that both teams have played, they're not really close. I mean, RCB's beaten Elkins, East Fairmont, and Preston so far. And, of course, Bridgeport with a big win over Fairmont last week. So I'm with you. And this is, why we weren't against, reading too much into these early rankings because you don't know who's played who and all that sort of thing. But, this is a really tall task for RCB here, and I think Bridgeport probably soldiers on.
Let's see, Parkersburg South, John Marshall. That should be an interesting battle just because it is on the road for Parkersburg South. They're sitting at 1-2. I don't think we really know what South is right now because they've had, they had to play Midland and got waxed. I think anybody playing Midland right now outside of maybe, Bridgeport or Spring Valley or something like that, it's probably gonna have a tough time with them anyway. But then you go on the road to a 2-1 team and sit at number 9. That I think that's gonna be tough for Parkersburg South to try to get a victory there.
Yeah, South's other loss was to that Princeton team we were just talking about too. On the road, obviously that's a nice little road trip. But John Marshall played right with Oak Glen last week. I think it was a high-scoring game, 55-46. I think Oak Glen ended up pulling that out. And we know how good Oak Glen is. We've talked about it for 2 years. So, I like John Marshall here. I think they're probably a back-end playoff team, maybe a second half of the top 16, and they pick up another one here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, Double A, you got Spring Mills coming out of Class Triple A, and they're going to take on Frankfurt that's sitting at number 3 again. All these rankings are just early, but both teams undefeated. I guess you tend to lean more towards the bigger class team, with the bigger class coming in with the team, the numbers. But I don't know a ton about both these teams. But I almost want to go upset here. Like I just want to go upset just because it's a double A team welcome in a triple A team, and that'd be huge for them too to pick up the points. So I almost just want to make this like my upset game of the week just for the hell of it.
Yeah, I think I will. Frankfurt at home in this game too, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It's always important right now, especially. So, yeah, I'll take Frankfurt, who, by the way, has maybe my favorite set of unis in all of West Virginia high school football. So
there you go. Yeah. All right, Clay County Liberty Rawlins, a big one there too. That's a top 10 showdown. Both teams 3-0. I'll go Clay County on that one. I like Clay County.
I think I'll go with you there too. Who was it they beat last week? They beat Hedgesville 35-3 last week. Speaking of AA over AAA,
yeah.
So that's a big win for Clay, and they're 3-0 and they're rolling. So yeah, I'll go with you. I'm with you on that.
Lincoln and North Marion. Lincoln's only played one game. North Marion's played 3. It is there at North Marion. I like the more proven team as far as games, but then again, you're saying, well, they might be fresher. Lincoln might be fresher. They might be the fresher team, but that's a far travel. So I'm going to probably go North Marion on that one.
Yeah, Darren Hayes is my guy, man. And I thought he did a really nice job last year with North Marion. We saw him a little bit when they came to Poca and were competitive in that game pretty much throughout. Their one loss is the Fairmont, so nothing to hang your head about there. And I think that was a close game going into the second half. Fairmont kind of pulled away late. But, yeah, I like the Huskies there.
All right, big one here. Musselman out of Class AAA, 2-1. Fairmont Senior, 1-1. At Fairmont Senior. Now, everybody's talking about Musselman, though. This is a team also that in Class AAA that everybody's, we talk about Bridgeport, we talk about Midland, we talk about Valley, we talk about all those teams. People are really high up on Musselman, too, and they played Martinsburg really well. I like Musselman. I know I'm getting off the Fairmont Senior train here for a second. I've been rooting for the Polar Bears or whatever. I've been a believer, but I like Musselman to win this game.
I think this is the game of the week to me. It's the most intriguing game anyway because, like you said, Musselman's right there on the cusp of that talking about, home field throughout the semis kind of conversation there. And, Fairmont, of course, coming off of a loss to Bridgeport. But that's a tough one to pick. But I'll just play the contrarian. I'll go home team and take the Polar Bears in a close one here.
Okay. I like it.
No reasoning, really.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, why not? I can't wait for you to start tweeting at me about 1:30 in the morning about it on Friday night. So.
And then finally, just wrapping up, Golden Shovel changes hand for first time since 2016. West Side, I guess, beating Wyoming East 57-32. I'm not sure when they even played that game. I was on the scoreboard. I didn't even see that they actually played that game. Shame on me, but apparently that is a big deal. So congratulations to them. And Wyoming East being, I think, 0-3 at this point, which is kind of tough.
Yeah, 0-4 is what it has.
Or 0-4, yeah.
Yeah, that Golden Shovel, man, that's a big deal.
I think let's see, Class A, we always do this. There's a couple of them as far as just ranked teams, as far as just the first rankings of playoff teams. But the biggest one that jumps out to me is Doddridge County and Ritchie County. Doddridge sitting at number 2, Ritchie at 16. Doddridge not. We just mentioned they hadn't allowed anybody to score on them. They're sitting at 3-0. Ritchie County 2-1. These two teams don't like each other very much. I think this could be one of the bigger games also. I mean, you mentioned the other one there, Musselman and Fairmont Senior, which I agree with you. That's the game in the state. But Doddridge County and Ritchie County could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for a team that hasn't given up a point. We've talked about Doddridge and Hunter America and what they've done over the last few years, and I think their offense has always kind of stolen the show. But yeah, man, to not give up a point this deep into a season, that's a pretty good indication of a stingy defense there. Just a couple other ones between ranked teams, Word at Tyler Consolidated and Tigers Valley at Gilmer County. I mean, those are a couple big games early on for playoff positioning. And, I mentioned that Tigers Valley team last week. I think here they are at number 8. I mean, this is one of your smaller schools in the state, and it's always fun to see those schools do some big things here in athletics. And, that'd be a huge win for them on the road over Gilmer County, and that's definitely one I'll be watching Friday night.
Good luck to all the teams. Good luck to all the kids, and good that they can play some football. The schools that can play football. Hopefully, we can get some Kanawha County and Putnam County and those counties still waiting to play some football back on board. We are definitely thinking of those teams, and look forward to seeing those teams hopefully in the future. And because time, as you said, is kind of running out on some of these teams, so we're hoping that color code stuff goes in Kanawha County and Putnam County's favor. And there's a lot of programs there looking to play some football. I know you mentioned Polka. They had a lot to prove this year, and they were really coming on last year, and actually the last 2 years. And last year looked like they could have snuck away with a state championship. Of course, there was some teams there in front of them that was just a little more ready. But you said this year, this was the year for Polka for you. I remember you telling me that this could be the year Polka wins it all. So hopefully a team like that can get back out there. And then you look at a team that I call games for South Charleston, who had a lot to prove too, had a lot of talent, some guys coming back and healthy. That was really just trying to make some noise and get back to the playoffs. So I'm hoping some of these teams can get back on the field soon.
I think GW is another one. I mean, that was a team that made as much improvement from day one to the end last year as any team in the state, and pushed Cabell Midland in the playoffs on the road, and of course got their quarterback back and a lot of their skill weapons back. And I thought that was a team that really had a chance to really surprise some people and maybe backdoor themselves all the way down to quarterfinal, semifinal type thing. So yeah, that's another squad that maybe doesn't get mentioned as much as the Polkas around here, but I think GW is about to have a really, really good team this year.
Great point. RT Alexander, of course, I believe did a piece with the Gazette with Rick Ryan recently talking about how he needs to get out there, play some football. I mean, you're talking about, I will leave it on this. A lot of people are saying, well, we're making a big stink about sports. Well, there's a lot more to this. I mean, you're talking about, not just the things that come along with it, but you're talking about scholarship opportunities and not having film and not being able to possibly go play where you want to play because, you can get your education paid for, and there's a lot that comes with that. So that's why it's such a big deal. And I don't think anybody really puts that out there. They just looks at it as sports, but there's a lot that comes with this, a lot more than just the outsider's perspective. And I think people don't look at it that way. They just look at it as a dumb game, kids playing. And in a sense, it is a game. It's a kid's game, but it creates opportunities for these guys, and you don't want them to miss out on those.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're talking, just the social aspect of it too, learning how to be on a team, learning how to work together toward common. I mean, we could go on and on about this for the next 2 hours, but yeah, there's definitely more in this than just a game. And like you said a minute ago, man, we just hope that all these not only do we get back to playing sports, but we start to beat this virus, man. It's doing some. My sister's a nurse, and she tells me some pretty bad horror stories right now. Our state's not in very good shape when it comes to this thing. So most importantly, let's beat this thing. And second of all, as a byproduct, let's get some kids on the field and play some sports.
Certainly. Wear your mask. Also get your test, and more testing will help you bring some of those numbers down. Plus, will help you have some good sleep at night knowing that you don't have coronavirus. That's always a good thing, too. So there you go. All right. We're going to wrap it up again. Presented by Tent Guy. Check them out. Nitro, also Oscars. Breakfast Burgers and Brews down in Barbersville. Check them out. They actually have 2 new burgers. I forgot to mention that as well. So check that out on the menu. And if you're listening to the audio portion, Brad Dingus will be on after this. You'll be able to listen to our conversation with Spring Valley's head coach coming off that historic win over Martinsburg. Until next week, enjoy some high school football.
See you guys.